Hello everyone, my name is Andy, and welcome back to episode 12 already, holy cow, of Building the Boss Board. Today we're going to talk about a new small rig I'm building for my best friend, and we're going to talk about everybody's favorite slash least favorite subject when it comes to building pedal boards, Velcro. Do you use it? Do you not use it? We love it. We probably hate it, but just, excuse my junk, but just as like to preface this, it is definitely something I use. That's kind of my quote unquote main board, like I gig anyway. And then here is my boss board that you guys have been watching, which I appreciate the views, support, like, comments, subscriptions, all that. Goal with this one was in fact not to have Velcro, which we succeeded. So that's that Acclaim or Acclam S2. There's plenty of video footage about that. Go check it out. But to start here, we've got a pedal train Metro 16 is what it's called. And inside here, we've got one of the main pedals that my buddy wants to use. So picked this up for $30 on Facebook. I think they retail for like $70 with the case. So a solid deal as far as used. There's at least some Velcro on there. And the case is still there, which is great. I had to wait for it a couple extra weeks because the person who sold it to me got COVID, got tested, everything's great, wonderful. Okay. So Metro 16. This is I believe it's 16 inches by 8 inches, and this is the Boss VE20, which is a vocal processor harmonizer kind of thing, and he primarily uses it for harmonies, which I believe is the right foot switch. So that's key, is that he wanted to have access to that. Which, I mean, okay, great, you have access to it. But we know that, I also know that he wants a few pedals. I think it was Instagram and Facebook, I posted a picture of a few boards I have. The two you just saw, plus that little wooden fly rig board. We did something I called Pedal Palooza. It was just the two of us hanging out and having him experiment with pedals. Um, because it's not really something that he's done a lot with, which is great. I love teaching. I love people getting excited about stuff I'm excited about. Um, yeah, so as far as general effects he was interested in was chorus, delay. He was kind of interested in the equalizer. Remember, he's playing acoustic guitar. So a couple, I don't know, boxes kind of need to be checked. One, and I don't know if this is going to work, is can this stuff be run through a PA without, you know, hitting it too much? Because guitar amps are different than PAs, are different than, I don't know. So we don't have any drive pedals. But this equalizer, this extra one I have, kind of hard to see the sliders without the little knobbies, but I did that same kind of thing where did kind of a mid boost, and he was interested in how that changed the texture of his guitar. So that's a potential contender. And we did just order him an RV6, which is on the boss board right now. We did order him an RV6 off Facebook for, I think it was 112 shipped, so pretty decent price. Um, and today is January 31st. So for the moment, just as a space placeholder or whatever, till that arrives, I got an RV3 from one of the previous episodes. Um, so building this rig is going to be kind of the end result of this video. I'm going to do some cuts and make the video short-ish as far as putting all that together. You don't need to see me, you know, putting all the power supply in and things like that. We'll talk about that at the end. But what I do want to talk about today, the focus for this video, is our best friend, Velcro. So, we love it, we hate it. And again, with my boss board, the goal was to make a board that had no Velcro on it, because we like our pedals in good shape, and we want these labels to look good. We want them to last, we want them to be pretty, we want them to be worth something at the time we're looking to sell it. So I've got two CH1s. This one I bought for my friend for his board, and this one was from episode 3. And it's still got Velcro on the back. So, let's just scoot all this junk. Pardon the mess. One thing that I found while taking Velcro off of pedals from episode 3 and episode 4, which included this one, is that fortunately Boss's design with the rubber, and more so how their labels are designed, their sticker, they've got like a plastic layer on there. So there's a little bit of, kind of hard to see, but there's a little bit of, I don't know, tearing or whatever. Let's grab another one here. This one. As I was peeling the Velcro off, and I will say I was thinking about using a heat gun. I was thinking about using like Gooby Gone, but I wanted the label to remain as intact as possible. Fortunately, the only thing that really happened, and this was already kind of like this, but I'm sure I made it worse, is the label did start peeling, because go figure, the Velcro is pretty strong on the adhesive side as I was peeling it off. But other than the kind of peeliness there, how it kind of came up and came back down onto the pedal, it's all there, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, this is an MIJ, so the serial number's inside, which is cool, because some of these newer ones, the serial numbers on a separate little sticker just fall off. So anyway, so if nothing else, we're gonna rip the Velcro right off this one and see how it goes. Mostly because I just wanna. Oh, see, and this is the first one where that rubber seems to be wanting to separate from the pedal. So unfortunately, slow and steady is the name of the game with this. But the point is, this is such a pain in the butt, right? We don't want this. If I want to sell this, yeah, fortunately most people are understanding, like, yeah, you put Velcro on it, you wanted to use it, you put it on a board. That all makes sense. But if we could avoid this, that'd be great. So I've got a few alternative solutions, most of which, or I think all of which, still include Velcro that you can try. Now, one you might have seen briefly, this is that RV3. Um, there's still a fair amount of surface area, at least at the top, where you can put Velcro, because it coming off the rubber is pretty non-damaging. So this is from, I think, 85. So this had Velcro all over it, and I mean, the rubber itself is old, it's tough, it's whatever, but it still looks pretty good. Whereas this is a much more modern pedal. And for now, just because I wanted to stick it on a board briefly, I just put a couple strips of Velcro on the rubber. And of course, it's not perfect. When I put it on the board, let it settle for a second or whatever. Like, yeah, it'll pick up that board, but of course, I can pull that off with very minimal effort. But again, it's just an idea. If you're worried about keeping that label pretty, you're probably okay putting Velcro on just the rubber. And more ideally, probably more up here and maybe more down here to cover the stretch of those contact points. I'm sorry, I'm off to the side here. So if you cover with a strip here and then kind of up the side so you at least have more surface area, that's a pretty simple solution. Just involves cutting extra Velcro. Another version, so this is the one I'm giving to my buddy. Fortunately, / unfortunately, somebody ripped the rubber layer right off the pedal. You can see the, curled corners or whatever. So they simply kept the back plate, ripped the rubber off, and said, cool, now I've got a flat surface for Velcro. Okay. And I did open this one up earlier. It is the actual back plate. What other folks will do is they'll actually unscrew this, remove there's usually a plastic piece in between the circuit board and the back plate. Probably remove that, flip it over, and screw it back in. I haven't done that yet. It's a very, very simple option. So you have all your original parts all in one place, and now you've got Velcro so it can go on a board. But the couple times I've just tried flipping it over and setting it in the back of the pedal, it was still sticking out a fair amount, because there's this big layer of rubber right there. And I certainly didn't want to like push into it, move the circuit board, maybe break the circuit board, anything like that. So, and I guess as far as this one goes, same kind of thing as with the reverb. I think I'm just going to go Velcro on the sides here. I did have a DD20 that had it across here, and again, it peeled off really nice because these labels are very high quality with the plastic or whatever layer that's on top of them. So I'm not super against putting it all the way across, but I'm going to see how it holds, mostly putting it on the rubber surfaces. But the main event, as far as an option for more safely covering your pedals with Velcro is extra back plates. So fortunately, I know a guy who works in a machine shop, and he was able to make me, I think there's 10 of these, out of aluminum. And he said, Andy, do they all have to have this goofy notch? And I said, yeah. Of course, at the time, we were looking at this, I believe to be fairly modern EQ, equalizer, and this power jack here goes to the bottom and slides out and back in, whatever, if you need to replace it. So there's that notch, and there's that notch in the back plate. There we go. So I said, yeah, they all have this, because I saw, oh yeah, made in Taiwan. This is, more or less a modern or current pedal. Well, I came home, and we're going to put that plate on this one. And lo and behold, oh my gosh, Andy, you're dumb. There's, just an embedded jack now. Fortunately, it's going to fit, but hey, now I can still do all the vintage pedals. Because, like, the Super Neat Phaser definitely has that notch. Old CE2s definitely have that notch. The CE3 definitely has that notch. So, it's still relevant. As far as I know, it's the same size in there, but notch or no notch, it should work. So we're going to replace that, and then we're going to stick Velcro on it. So, I'm not promoting anything. He's not open for business making plates, so please don't ask. He's worked in a machine shop for a long time. He traced it, he cut it. I think, based on kind of the stress marks that are on the edge here, I think he did kind of a punch to cut this little notch out. And they're not all perfect. This is, extra scraps of aluminum. There's writing on it, there's stamps on it, there's all sorts of stuff. But he was a hell of a guy and didn't charge me anything. So, sorry if that was loud. I do have this prepped a little bit. The screws are loose. And for the sake of transparency, as far as the imperfect nature of this option, he did need to, before he fit it into the equalizer pedal, he did need to sand the sides a little bit. So, regular plate off. You do have that, again, that plastic layer in between. And this is one of the other ones. It's a smidge wide. It's so minimal, but it's a smidge wide. So I'm going to have to do some sanding in order to use more of these. But this one he already sanded. I think this is how he had it in there. And this one is semi-snug. Yeah. So now put your screws back on, and all you have to do is label your backplate, your original backplate, so you know what pedal it goes to. I would recommend just like some masking tape and a Sharpie. DD3. Or you could write, well, I can't write the serial number because it's on the damn plate. Excuse me, man, I'm going to screw these suckers back on. So we're back. I took my 2-inch Velcro, cut a little piece off, cut it in half, put an inch on each end here. Looks very much like what the other person did there, which is great. I think another thing that gives Velcro a bad name is people tend to overuse it, especially when, I don't know, they just tend to overuse it. It seems that, especially if you talk to like the rig doctor, Mason Marangella, he's a heck of a guy. Not like I talked to him, but he'll tell you, one, if you can, maybe keep it a little bit away from the edges so you don't see it as it's flipped over, so it looks aesthetically pleasing. I think this is fine. It's not perfect, but that's okay as long as it's functional. We want it to stick. For best results, asterisk disclaimer, you really should use, kind of the match set, right? So this is what goes on the board, the fuzzy part, and the more prickly part goes on the pedal. Whereas I've got a used board here that already has stuff on it, so maybe it's a slightly different model, maybe it's not going to work so great. I already put this stuff on it, rather this pedal on it, And like, yeah, it sticks. It's Velcro, but and yeah, you gotta let it settle in. Well, now it's gripping okay. But depending on, I don't want to say thread count like a quilt, but it almost seems like that. If you use both sides of a matched set, you'll get the best results. But again, going back to too much Velcro, this is a ZVAX wah probe that I have, and I tried to strategically put Velcro on so one, it worked on my board where the contact points are, and two, I made sure, I guess these are rivets, not screws, but I didn't want to cover up any access points for the pedal itself. There's a little trim pod here I could have put a little lower. I didn't want to cover that. So this is still fully functional with just a little Velcro on it so it can go on a board. But anyway, so again, asterisk disclaimer, if you buy a new pedal and you know, go into it and replace parts on it, things like that, you know, obviously a warranty could get voided. Just be aware of that. But otherwise, it's a very easy and reversible mod, which I'm pretty excited about. Again, I happen to know somebody who was able to make these for me. I've seen a couple companies online that make them. They're probably like $6 to $10 a piece, depending on how they're made. But if you're handy, if you've got, this is aluminum. I want to say T6 plus another string of numbers that made it fancy. But it's still really strong. I think whereas these are steel, I believe. But yeah, it's strong. Now the pedal doesn't have Velcro all over its stuff, so if I ever want to put it on a different board or sell it, now it's in great shape. I just got to label this plate so I know where it came from. I'm going to move on to the big pedal. So just as far as like some prep work, I guess it's not really prep, but just kind of looking at how this is going to stick, my understanding is he wants best access to the right foot switch, which ideally means it's going to be right here on the corner, simple enough. Now, as far as fitting pedals across, that basically means he's only going to get, we're going to double down on chorus here, we might get 3, because I use those flat Hosa cables. Yeah, we probably don't get 3. Looks fairly nice though. So ideally we probably get 2. Obviously you can hang this off the side of the board a little bit to account for some of that. My idea, because he's still going to have easy access to the foot switch, is maybe we'll get the cables in that way for 3. But I am going to, either way, stick at least one behind it as far as maximizing that space. I've also got another Metro, or a Nano, I think it's this is 16 across, it's 18 inches across, which might help account for that space, so he can have 3 pedals plus this in the correct orientation. But that's going to be the next part, is mapping everything out. But my initial point was, depending on how you have it on the board, might dictate how much Velcro you actually need. Sorry, there we go. So maybe I don't need Velcro all the way to this top corner. I'm going to do it anyway, because then I've got it available if I end up going sideways. So I'm going to cut some Velcro, and we'll be right back. So just with quick thinking and tinkering, I decided to take a Magic the Gathering style card, whatever, not Magic the Gathering, but that's what we use them for, hard sleeve with the thick edges, and I cut it up, because I'm going to take, throw that away, I'm going to take the 1-inch Velcro and just cut it in half and do the whole thing, but I was like, well, we can protect the label and get a little more surface area holding the Velcro, so I just cut pieces out of that sleeve to fill in those little gaps. Kind of stupid, but I just wanted to show you what I was doing. Alright, so the Velcro on there. I think it turned out pretty good. It's not perfect. But yeah, those hunks of plastic definitely kind of leveled out that little space, so I mean it still sinks in a little bit towards there, but just trying to get a little more surface area and keep it off the label if we ever want to take them off. So cut the little corners so the screws are accessible, a little less surface area for dust to cling to, I guess, because otherwise they'd just kind of be hanging off the corners there. I'm gonna let this sit for a couple minutes. I'm trying to, kind of like a clamp, just press it in, make sure it's adhering nicely, because there's obviously there's slots in the rubber. You know, it's, again, not a perfect solution, and you know, most people, not everybody, but most people take care of their shit. I hope you enjoyed that, because I'm going to leave it in. Most people take care of their stuff. So hopefully this is all that's necessary. Wow. Keeping it real raw on this channel. I'm not going to edit that out because it's funny. Oh my god. Comment, laugh, hate, whatever you want. That was amazing. Cool. I'm going to put this thing together. So now I've ever so sweetly set that big pedal down. God, that was embarrassing. So, this already had some zip ties on it, which at first I was like, that's dumb, but he used it to do a power supply. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. This is called the Power Block. This is one of those, I think I did buy it off of Reverb, but this is one of those blue lit power supplies that you've seen relabeled time and time again for like 40, 50 bucks or something. Used it for a while. It's actually not bad. I don't know if it's truly isolated. It's got a couple high voltage options. I'm going to use the 9-volt high current one for the big pedal. Great. With the zip ties on, this is now a smidge higher than the feet, so that's not going to work. Depends on where you set it, I guess. And unfortunately, slash fortunately, good by design, but not if I want to change it. These are riveted in, so those aren't going anywhere. Without the zip ties, I think it will sit relatively flat. It's probably still a smidge high. Let's find out. Yeah, it's still a smidge high. But anyway, it's a place to start. So, as unexciting and kind of dumb as it is for the moment, I'm just going to leave it attached under this. And I can suggest power supplies to my friend that will work with these, like a Strymon O-High or a Chox, would be like a DC5 or something like that. Both those have plenty of milliamps and power for usually like 5. I think DC, I don't know if there's a DC5, but the O-High is 5. That's what I'm going to recommend to him. So it's flatter, it'll sit in there better, the board won't rock. We'll figure it out. So, moving on. So here's scenario 1. It's not all wired up, but I put patch cables in between the pedals so you can see how it all fits. So, Max, when you're watching, this is idea or configuration number 1. VE20 is in the correct orientation. You've got 3 pedals here. In order to get them all on, I did have to stagger them, kind of like on the boss board. Patch cables are flat, but they're not nothing. Without patch cables, yeah, 3 fits right here just fine. But so that's one option. Still accessible. I'm going to need more Velcro if we do it this way, though, because there's where I have Velcro, there's nothing there. As far as this is the beginning of the signal chain, because remember, this is for vocals. This is completely separate from the signal chain. I've got a female-to-female connector. Basically looks like a silver barrel that another cable can connect to. I'm sure there's some fancy way we could mount that or tape it so you at least have a place to plug in. Otherwise, you would have to have like his standard guitar cable like always plugged in right there. So let's look at option 2. Okay, and here's scenario 2. Kind of weird, but bear with me. So we've got the VE20 sideways because he said at least for the harmonies right now, it sounds like this does more of the loop stuff and this is the harmony stuff. This is the switch that he's primarily using. So a little weird having to press. I mean, these activate pretty easily. Usually you don't have to press all the way down to get it going. But this at least is the switch that's more accessible because it's the one that he wants. Effects that we want. And again, the other one that he talked about, showed interest in when we did our little get together talking about pedals, was the EQ. So now the EQ is first in the chain. It is kind of weird that it's facing the other direction. But now we've got a simple input. Now he can just plug a guitar cable in and it kind of looks and feels normal without having to do any crazy modifications. So this is option 2. I think I'm going to end up stopping here. As far as what goes on the back, I did recently purchase a big old pack of those little, here we go, those zip ties and squares so you can tie down power cables underneath. I think we're going to get the order, kind of the layout figured out first before I go ahead and do that. There's plenty of generic spots I can put it, but this is going to depend on the power supply, how many pedals, where we're going to use the pedals. But I do believe I have sufficient power. There are 10 outlets, but doesn't always solve everything. But what I'm getting at is we've got the 9-volt high current for this pedal, and this actually still says ACA on it, even though it's made in Taiwan. So this will likely need the 12 volts, and there happens to be a specific 12 volt power option on there. So thank you for taking this fairly long journey with me. This is episode 12 of building a boss board. Again, with the little get together that we had, this is what he gravitated towards. He likes his Boss pedal. He likes the switch styles of Boss pedals over the little metal buttons of other pedals. So his board might look something like this. And obviously, there are bigger boards out there. There are, like my pedal train down there is much bigger, but that's going to be too big for this simple setup. So we're going to see about maybe finding another one. But hey, for $30 with a case, it's a great place to start. So like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.